An entitled Karen freaks out on me and my mom after I force her to move out of my parking spot at our apartment complex. But after I find out that she keyed my mom's car, I decided to get some petty revenge by deflating her tires and forcing her to tow her car away. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so I live in this apartment complex with a parking at the ground floor of the building. Bear in mind, this is my secondary residence for the weekdays, and I stay with my family about a couple of hours away during the weekends. Anyways, my employer rented me a 3-bedroom hallway kitchen apartment in this building, considering that they accounted for my entire family staying with me, which they don't, as they stay at our own house a couple of hours away. I'm given 2 parking spots in the building parking lot, and normally I only use one, because I drive over Monday mornings and drive back during the weekends to see my family. The other spot is mostly unused, but there's more than enough spots in this parking lot for all the residents in this building. So, given that my second spot is mostly unused, an opportunistic neighbor of mine decided to start using my spot because it's got better shade than her parking spot. And I will be frank, I didn't realize this until recently. Recently, however, I invited my mom to stay over with me for a week, and she came separately in her own car. To my surprise, when she arrived, she said that our second spot was already occupied. I inquired with security, and sure enough, he checked the number plate of the car in question, and it belonged to my neighbor. So he called my neighbor to respectfully move her car into her designated spot. But the thing is, she didn't pick up the phone, so the security guard had to climb upstairs and knock on her door to bring her downstairs. Now, here's where she turns into an absolute total jerk. I'm not expecting any apology, which she is liable to give me. Instead of obliging, she starts arguing with the security guard. He said that he's following the rules, and he doesn't really have a say regarding this. She then reluctantly comes down to the parking lot and gives me the nastiest death stare. She hesitates, but eventually moves her car to her spot so that my mom can park her car. And bear in mind, my mom is just waiting in her car all along for my neighbor to move her car. Anyways, my neighbor then continues arguing with the security guard, but we didn't stick around, since me and my mom went to our apartment to get on with our lives. When my mom was leaving to go back home, she was horrified to see that her car had been keyed up really bad. Now, in that time frame, the only people that could have entered our parking lot is the security guards and other neighbors. I'm on great terms with all of my other neighbors, except for the one mentioned in this post, so there's a lot of reasons to believe that she was responsible for this incident. When my mom reported the damage to me, I was outraged. For absolutely no reason, my mom's car was damaged, and it's not like we did anything wrong. I mean, we did get back a parking spot that was rightfully ours. So, of course, to teach this lady a lesson, I decided to damage her car back. In the following days, I brought out my tools, and I left some really bad scratches on her front driver's side bumper, but I still felt that wasn't enough, so I decided to completely deflate 2 of her tires. I did this after I came back from work, under the pretense that I was checking on my own car, meaning that sweet revenge was absolutely served. Needless to say, she was horrified the next day. She had to get her car towed, which I graciously saw over my balcony, and she was panicking because she was going to be extremely late to get to work. But I smiled whilst watching this, almost feeling like a supervillain, but not really because she deserved it. Now, my neighbor probably knows that it's me, but hasn't pulled a stunt back at me because she knows that she started this fight and I definitely finished it. Wow, your neighbor is a piece of garbage. Seriously, this lady actually keyed your mom's car after you had her move out of your spot. And don't tell me that it was someone else, like clearly there's some kind of security guard here, and there's only one person who's got a problem with you, and it's this stupid Karen who was giving you like a death stare and didn't want to move her car. So in my opinion, I think you dished out some wonderful revenge because this lady absolutely had it coming. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My fiancé won't budge on his family Christmas traditions, as he literally refuses to see a way to make it work with mine, because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. Here's what happened. So my fiancé and I have been together for 3.5 years. I grew up in a family with 4 kids, and my parents have been married for 34 years. Our extended family is really small and lives back home on the East Coast where I'm from, so I was used to doing Christmas with just the 6 of us, namely my parents and my siblings, for the majority of my life. Some of my best memories are just relaxing at home with them, eating my mom's amazing food, watching movies, and opening presents. We would also get dressed up and go to church on Christmas morning. My parents don't drink either, so for me, family time has never involved alcohol, unlike my fiancé's family. My fiancé only has 1 sibling, and his parents are divorced, but they are still good friends. He has 4 cousins on his mom's side, and they all have significant others, so it's about 20 of us. Every Christmas Eve, their tradition is to get together at one of their homes in the early afternoon, and they do an Italian feast and drink a lot and play a lot of games. These parties will literally last until about 3 in the morning, which leaves no room to do anything else for the night of Christmas Eve, which in all actuality is not something that I like. My fiance and I have spent every Christmas Eve ever since we've been together with his mom's side for that party, because what he prefers for holidays is being surrounded by his family and partying with them. This has always seemed like a touchy subject, and I've tried to not complain about it because I know it makes him happy, so I try to just go along with it. And so far, our plan is to still attend the party this year for Christmas Eve. On Christmas Day, the past few years, we have opened gifts with his mom in the morning. Then we've gone to his dad's side to celebrate with them and open gifts. My parents moved out of town about 1.5 years ago, so we aren't able to do anything with them for Christmas unless they're in town. In my ideal world, my fiance and I would only go to his mom's side's Christmas Eve dinner for maybe a few hours, and then we would leave and do our own little traditions. On Christmas Day this year, we were originally going to travel to New York to see my family, but ultimately decided to stay in town and save money on traveling. So my alternative was that he and I could spend all Christmas Day together, just us, since we would be with his family for most of Christmas Eve. It's our first Christmas in our new house, and first Christmas being engaged. I wanted to at least have some special time for us as a couple for Christmas, because it is my favorite holiday, and relaxing at home and opening gifts, eating good food, watching Christmas movies, it may not sound like much, but I love it. My fiance originally sounded excited at the idea of us doing that together, but he is now telling me that this would be boring, and it doesn't sound fun to him to sit around all day when we have the whole week off of work to have alone time. He also said that my family Christmases sound lame, and at his family's, they actually have fun. Well, I took that personally, because I would hope that my fiance would be excited to spend Christmas Day with just me and try to create our own traditions, and having alcohol and partying involved shouldn't be the determining factor of if it's fun or not. I pointed out that I've already made a lot of sacrifices with my preferred holiday traditions in order to appease him specifically, but you know what? He said that he didn't care, and that made me even more upset. What should I do? Oh wow, your fiance's being very spoiled and very rude. You mean to tell me that for the entirety of you guys being together, you're constantly spending time with his family, but he never wants to do the same with yours? Like seriously, that seems a bit unfair. Why should you have to sacrifice all your family traditions just so he can go partying? Like what's going on? Shouldn't you guys be going back and forth? So overall, I think he's being super entitled, and the way he's going about doing this, in my opinion, is incredibly unfair. Am I the jerk for not letting a woman cut in line to the grocery store after she acted super entitled and super rude with me? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I really need some opinions on grocery store etiquette and not letting someone cut in line. Tonight after work, I stopped by my local grocery store to grab a handful of items to make dinner, and I only had about 5 items in total. I maneuvered my cart behind an older woman who was slowly navigating putting her groceries on the belt to be checked out, and she was the only person I noticed in front of me. A few minutes later, another woman tries to edge her way in line in front of my cart, and I just gave her a quizzical look, and she said to me, "Oh, I was here before, but I went to go see if the other line was moving faster." I said to her, "Okay, but you weren't here when I arrived, so I don't know what to tell you." This woman then proceeded to inform me that she was here first, and that she should be let back in because she only stepped away to see if the other line was faster. I replied that I did not see her before I joined the line, so she could get behind me or go back to the other line. At this point, she showed me that she only had a few things and was shocked that I wasn't going to let her back in line. But I pointed out that I too only had a few items, and I wasn't going to move because I did not see her in line in front of me when I joined. Now, this is where I may be the jerk. At this point, we're both getting frustrated in this grocery store race for pole position. She says to me, "So you're not gonna let me back in? Where is your Christmas spirit?" But I had had enough of her entitlement at this point, and I just shot back at her and I said, "Don't pull that garbage on me." Honestly, if I had been behind her in line, I would have happily held her place if she had asked me, but she wasn't there when I arrived, and she just assumed that she would cut back in line after a few minutes. Using Christmas spirit as a means to get what you wanted was the last straw for me. In the end, she glared at me and said, "I hope you have a Merry Christmas," her voice dripping with sarcasm, and she then left to go back to another cashier. And the irony is, we both left the store with our items at the same time. So truly, am I the jerk for not letting her cut in line? Especially after she tried to use Christmas against me? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk entirely. She gambled looking for another line and she completely lost. So for her to come back and be like, "Wait a second, I was actually in line," like that's so weird and stupid. Like, does she really expect to hold 2 different spots in 2 different lines? Like, if you leave the line, then congratulations, you're gonna have to wait to go back in that line. So no, you're not the jerk, because honestly, if someone tried to pull the whole Christmas spirit thing on me as well, I would have lost my mind and been like, "Oh, now you're definitely not getting back in line." Because that, in my opinion, is some weird guilt guilt tripping that you do not deserve in the slightest. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that she is an awful mother in the family group chat? Because right now, I'm not sure if I crossed a serious line. Here's what happened. So my sister Sarah and I have seen each other around Christmas every year, but other than that, we don't really communicate except for the occasional family group chat exchange. She has two sons who we will call Jackson and Ethan. Jackson is 15 years old and Ethan is 13 years old. I've always known that Ethan is quiet and reserved, and until recently, I thought he preferred to not have a lot of attention until I realized that he's just not getting any. Until last Christmas, I thought Jackson and Ethan had the same dad. I learned that Jackson's dad left Sarah after she cheated on him, which is why we now have Ethan in our lives. I also recently realized that Sarah would reach out in the chat on behalf of Jackson. If he had a sports game, doing a fundraiser, or had a social event to attend, she would ask us to attend, donate, or help him get to and from his social event if she couldn't take him. Or if he was suspended from school, she would reach out to us for help, but rarely would we hear anything about Ethan. And she never told us that Jackson was suspended 99% of the time, all because he was bullying Ethan and his friends. In fact, they now go to separate schools. Recently, Sarah asked if someone could take Ethan to his school choir concert. That way, she could attend parent conferences at Jackson's school. Now, this was odd to me because she didn't ask anyone to go watch him perform, but I gave her the benefit of the doubt and thought maybe Ethan just didn't want anyone to watch. I then offered to take him, watch the concert if he wanted me to, and then take him home. He even had a solo and he was smiling and clearly loved doing what he was doing. His choir director said that Ethan is always helping other students and asked me to come to more concerts. Sometime after that, Sarah was once again busy at driver's ed with Jackson and Ethan was left at home. He then started vomiting and called his mom, and of course she reached out and asked if anyone else could go take care of him until she was able to get home. So I decided to just do it. But the thing is, she didn't come home early. Fast forward, and 2 weeks later, which is literally 2 weeks ago from now, he has now broke his hand. Last weekend, I bought tickets to the symphony and I planned on taking him, but I wound up not being able to because I was sick. I then transferred the tickets to his mom and I begged her to take him and she said that she would. Well, I texted Ethan yesterday and asked how he liked it, but he didn't respond. So I called up his mom. It's then that I find out that she didn't take him and didn't find anyone else to try and take him. Apparently, she was busy and forgot, but wasn't too busy to ask the family group chat the day of the concert if anyone would help Jackson's DC trip in the spring. I then went off on her in the family group chat and said that she is being an awful mother. I said that I don't know if it's because she inherited the favoritism gene from our parents or if she is subconsciously punishing him, all because she cheated and got rightfully dumped. And I then told her that she needs to step up for her son. Well, as you can probably guess, this has caused a group chat storm. At first, I felt justified, but some of the responses say otherwise. And Sarah, of course, says that I'm the biggest jerk in the world. So seriously, am I in the wrong for calling her out in front of the rest of the family? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk for calling her out and being like, hey, you're neglecting Ethan, but I don't know if the family group chat was the best place to do that. I don't know. In that situation, for me personally, I would make sure to discuss it in private first, just to try and see if there's some kind of details that I might be missing. Like, sure, you're seeing something that absolutely needs to be discussed, but for me personally, I would have done this in private instead of in a group chat, even though I think you're completely justified in discussing this in the first place. My boyfriend has repeatedly forgotten to get me any Christmas or birthday gifts, but now he's upset that we're not getting pizza on his birthday like he was hoping we would do. And at this point, I'm so frustrated that I seriously don't know how to make things right. Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old female and I've been dating my boyfriend for a little over 4 years. The first year he was great about gifts and making me feel loved and remembered, but after that, I didn't get anything. I would remind him months, weeks, and days before my birthday or Christmas. Not once has he planned to take me anywhere or bought me a gift ahead of time. I've never unwrapped a birthday present from him, and I usually get upset, obviously, and then cry. But then we go out and he usually buys me something that I pick out. And honestly, I hate this, and I've told him that I hate this. I give him hints all year. I straight up tell him what I want. In fact, last year he bought me a silicone ring that not only wasn't my size, but it was also a pattern that I didn't like. He also didn't return it to get the size that I wanted, so I just didn't get a gift. And on top of that, this year he just didn't get me anything at all. Like 2 weeks after my birthday, I saw a purse that I wanted at a thrift store, and then he ended up buying that for me. Now, we are not super well off, but he spends hundreds of dollars a month on tools and parts to add on to his cars. He also spends money on video games and useless subscriptions that he doesn't use. I don't want him to spend money on me, but over the years, I've told him repeatedly that my perfect birthday would be getting flowers, a handwritten note, and then a dinner date. That is is literally it. But even the note is too hard to get because even though I love notes, he claims that he can't write, so that's why he never does it. I feel like it's not crazy to ask for just this on my birthday. I don't know if I'm looking for advice or just pity, but I'm just so exhausted with all of this. He works on his birthday a couple of days, so we had planned to go get pizza at his favorite spot after he had his first therapy appointment today. The therapy place is in the same town as the pizza place, which is an hour away. Well, we are both sick, so he canceled his therapy, but this morning I asked him, okay, so we're not going anywhere today, we've got no plans, and he confirmed that we didn't. But now, all of a sudden, he's really upset that we're not going to get pizza still. I'm obviously confused, so I tell him I don't really want to go because he doesn't have therapy anymore. We're also both sick and I don't eat pizza. We would also have to take my car as his needs new tires and the roads are snowy. Well, now he's in bed sulking because apparently going there for my birthday was the only thing that I wanted. So is that guilt tripping? I don't know if I'm too close to him to figure out if I'm overreacting or what I should even do. I want to make him happy and celebrate his birthday like I always do, but I just can't let myself do it. I get emotional and sad every time I try to plan anything. Now, another catalyst for this is that I love painting. I absolutely love it. I'm really artistic and I've been trying to get him to join me in creating anything for the past 4 years, but he never has. He's refused painting, making ornaments, drawing something, I mean literally everything. I have been really bothering him about it the last 2 weeks because I always humor him when he wants me to join him in helping with his cars. I am not mechanically gifted and it's not the most fun thing for me, but I like spending time with him and seeing him do what he loves. I guess I need advice on how to get him more involved and what I should do about his birthday and Christmas. I already have gifts picked out for both, but honestly, what do I do here? I don't think I'd be happy if I blew him off on his birthday because I want to celebrate him. What's the best way to make sure that I'm happy and he's happy without being petty or vindictive? What should I do? Okay, first off, you need to pump the brakes. You mean to tell me that this guy refuses to give you any birthday gifts or Christmas presents, and yet he still expects you to do the same for him? Like, what's going on here right now? That is so spoiled and entitled, it's not even funny. You remind this guy over and over again, hey, my birthday's tomorrow, could you get me something that I might like? You even go as far as telling him exactly what you do want, and he still doesn't have the common courtesy to do it. It's like, seriously, this is not that hard to figure out. Just buy your girlfriend what she wants and then be done with it. And him saying, oh, I can't write anything, I'm sorry, that's too hard for me. That is such a cop-out answer, it's not even funny. Of course he can write. He knows how to write with a pen and paper. He just doesn't want to do it because either he's too lazy to, or he doesn't actually care about you that much. Like if my girlfriend said, hey, I want flowers, a handwritten note, and I want a dinner date, I would jump at that so fast. That's like so easy. The barrier of entry of making this a good day for her is now completely figured out. Why would you not dive in head first and do exactly that? So truly, I hope this all gets figured out for you because the way your boyfriend's treating you, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for calling my husband's new boss's wife out after I discovered that she stole from my daughter? Because right now I'm worried that my husband's job might be in jeopardy, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So last night we attended my husband's first Christmas party with his new employer. He's been in the same field for decades, so I was familiar with a few attendees. I had never met his boss or his boss's wife, who we will call Andrea, and I knew very little about her. Now, as a side story, my daughter, who we will call Willow, is a fantastic cook. She has worked in the same bank for 7 years, so they've gotten to know her food and will often make a special request. And this year they requested bruschetta and crostinis. A couple coworkers requested that she make a larger batch, as it all went away fast at last year's Christmas potluck. The following day she took it to work, but half an hour before the party, she called me crying because someone had taken it from their fridge. She wasn't crying because the food disappeared. She was crying because she served it in a dish hand-painted by her sister. It was a trumpeter swan dish that I loved very much. I consoled her and suggested it might turn up eventually, but inside I was completely crushed. Now back to the party. I'm enjoying my second glass of Merlot and also getting to know a few people when I decide it's best to go get something to eat so I don't get too buzzed. Now everyone is ranting and raving over the boss's dish, bruschetta and crostinis. Apparently she can't cook and usually buys something, so this is a surprise to them. I am curious to see if it's better than Willow's recipe, so I walk over to grab some, and much to my surprise, this is from my own trumpeter swan dish. I walked over to the dish and I turned it to a friend of mine, who we will call Julie, pointing out the dish and sharing its origin. She suggested that there might be more than one, but I just shook my head and said, no, it's handmade, look at the bottom. And by this time, Andrea had walked over to us. I turned to her and I said, do you work at the US Bank? She then nods and says, I don't recognize you, are you a customer? But I said to her, no, I'm Willow's mother. mother. You broke her heart today." I then pointed to the dish. Andrea's face then floods with color as she tries to defend herself. "There are tons of those dishes out there." But Julie said to her, "Andrea, this is hand-painted." She then lifts it over her head. By now, there are 4 other women around us, and on the bottom of it says my other daughter's name and the year 2009. Andrea opens her mouth, but nothing comes out. She then bursts into tears and leaves the room. Her husband followed her shortly thereafter, effectively ending the party. At home, my husband yelled at me for confronting her in front of everyone else. He thinks I should have discreetly confronted her and asked for my dish back rather than doing it in public. But I yelled back that she had no consideration for how she made Willow feel when the dish disappeared. So honestly, I just returned the favor. He yelled that I might have compromised his job, but I yelled back that his boss married a cheap thief. And if he didn't know it before, then he did now. If the boss sided with his wife and made my husband pay, then it wasn't a job worth keeping. Well, this morning his boss isn't at work, and apparently he took vacation until the new year. So am I in the wrong for calling this lady out? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, you're not the jerk, but also, why is your husband not upset about this? Does he really care more about his job over his daughter? Like seriously, this lady stole from your daughter. Your wife is completely justified in calling this lady out and being like, "Wait a second, you stole from us." Like, I'm sorry, this is not something that should ever be taken lightly. The original poster has now gone on to explain that her husband, the boss, and the wife are all going to meet tonight. And while the original poster is kind of nervous about this, if I was in the original poster shoes, I would be like, no, I'm definitely excited about this because these people need to apologize to me. They stole from my family, and that is absolutely unacceptable. So no, you're not the jerk for calling these people out in the slightest, because this is something, in my opinion, that absolutely needs to be addressed. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.